Notes Guy. I am the Show Notes Guy, and we have with us already a guy who is doing an interesting project with his podcast and his online business. Excuse me. And his name is Ryan. I got that right?
Roger.
Okay.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, because it says VW Diesel, and I know that's not your name. That is your business,
It
though.
might as well be sometimes.
I was chatting with Ryan before we were getting everything started and waiting for another friend to come sign in, and hopefully he'll be back in and everything will work, but we'll see later. Anyway, next month, my podcast topic will be monetization. Actually, the next 2 months will be monetization of podcast. And Ryan has a very interesting concept of being able to monetize his podcast. And I want to pick his brains a little bit. I was hoping some others would come in and maybe they could pick your brains, or maybe they've got some monetization techniques going on that we could learn from as well, Ryan, both you and I.
Right.
But first off, tell us about your podcast. Tell us about your website, because I know you've got some membership things going on there. Mm-hmm. And then explain what you've done to add the monetization feature to your podcast.
Okay. I have recently acquired a website that is vwdiesel.net. It is a semi-large Volkswagen community that concentrates on older diesels and newer TDI Volkswagen diesels, and then we throw some of the gas stuff in there because a lot of us have gas Volkswagens along with our diesels. I actually acquired the site by trying to advertise on it my other site, that is vwshirts.com, and on that site I sell Volkswagen themed t-shirts and do custom t-shirts if people want them, and just try to have a little bit of fun with the troubles of owning Volkswagen sometimes. It's kind of like kids. After a while, you become institutionalized, and you can't do any, you can imagine a life without them.
Well, I actually, one of the first vehicles I ever drove was a 73 VW Beetle.
Nice. I had a 72 at one time.
Granted, that was in 1982, but
oh, hey, I wasn't born then.
but the VW is a very easy to operate and maintain vehicle. I'm sure, though, the diesel was probably a little bit more difficult to maintain than the gas powered.
Sometimes, yes. If it likes you, it's great. If the car doesn't like you, then it can be kind of a bear sometimes. As a general whole, as long as you take care of them, it's kind of like, a girlfriend or a wife. As long as you take care of them and spend plenty of time with them and spend lots of money on them, then they treat you right too. But if you neglect them and don't spend time with them and don't take care of them, they can be pretty costly. It may not be a very good analogy, but sometimes it's fitting.
I would never relate a VW Beetle to a girl. I'd get slapped if I did, but that's beyond that. Now, you say that you purchased this website. You found this website, the VW Diesel. What? Right. What is the domain?
vwdiesel.net.
Okay. And so you found this site, I guess, struggling to survive, and then you purchased the domain. Was it already set up with the membership? Was pretty much the site content set up, or what?
I had been a member of the site for 4 or 5 years, so I was known on the site a little bit and knew a lot of the people on the site. And the person that started the site had a repair shop like I did. I also have a European automotive repair shop, and he had a second job too besides the shop, and he didn't have a whole lot of time to spend on the site, and the site would go down for a long period of time. And I approached him about advertising my site, VW Shirts, on his site in exchange for either managing the site on my server so that the site would never go down, or giving him money to pay to keep the site up, because I use the site a lot. There's a lot of good information on it. It helped me out in my business, and I didn't want to see it have the problems. Well, after about 2 months of talking, I was able to acquire the site from him, and I've started revamping the site, upgrading it. It's a forum. It's an interactive community. I've added a blog to it. I've got the podcast is going to go up here pretty soon. And starting out, I just threw up Google AdSense on it. It doesn't really make a whole lot of anything. Maybe $50 a month, which for having Google rates it as 120,000 page views, but the server side has a whole lot more traffic than that. I don't think that Google Analytics likes my forum very well.
I will explain to you a little bit. The analytics on your website is probably less accurate than the Google Analytics, because the way the Google Analytics actually traces how long they stay there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And there's about a 10 times difference, though, between the two. But anyway, it doesn't make a whole lot that way.
Right.
So I've been working on trying to bring sponsoring websites or businesses into, not necessarily to bring money into the forum, although it would be nice, but to bring businesses that provide a great service to my members and to get interaction with them. I've actually have had a couple giveaway contests already, and I'm fixing to start a really big one to where we're giving away all sorts of repair parts and computer software for automotive repair and things like that. And that
a new VW. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. There's a price cap on what you can do easily, at least in a contest.
I understand. I'm just joking.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be nice. Unless Volkswagen wants to give me one, I'd be okay with that too.
That'd be nice.
But we've been working to bring in some advertising dollars through banner ads, get sponsored guest posts, sponsored review videos, commercials in the podcast when it is released. We offer a few free advertising options in the vendor section so that even if you don't spend money with us, you can still help our community out and help yourself out. And then I actually finished up an advertising package last week and have been working on rolling that out to a couple places.
Now that I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned it in one of the podcasting groups we're on Facebook last week, and I think, although I told you this morning I don't think I saw it, I think I did see it, and then you sent me a link to it about an hour or so ago. This thing is pretty detailed about the different offers and opportunities you have for advertisers. Go through some of that, and then Paula, I see you there, and we'll get to you in just a minute. But go through that presentation a little bit and explain to us exactly what all is going with. I'm sorry, Jeremy Montoya just sent me a message in Skype. I was kind of freaked out. But what all is going on with your advertising and how well you're able to reach out to these potential advertisers for your podcast and your website.
Right. Well, I spent some time trying to figure out a lot of different avenues that advertisers could touch base with their consumers, and other ways that I could help them get the word out about their new products. So starting out, I have just your standard website banner ads, either a banner ad on the website blog or the website forum, and that's a set price. And the prices are probably a little high, but I've got it high because I don't want, just anybody in there looking for cheap advertising. I want businesses to be a part of us, to help us to grow with us, and so that I can count on them, so that my members can count on them. And if a business is not aligned with our niche, if it's not Volkswagen related or automotive related in one way, I don't have a problem with turning down that money. Because it's keeping my guys' interest at my best heart, or keeping their interest at heart.
Yeah.
And I've got that actually in the package on the first page. If you don't align with us, we don't need you. And it may sound kind of bold to say something like that, but it doesn't help my guys out any. And I call them my guys because a lot of them are friends of mine. A lot of the more active people are personal friends of mine on Facebook now since joining the forums or joining the websites. So a lot of them have become my friends even more so than before I owned the site. You can sponsor the Facebook group. We've got about 1,500 people in the Facebook group so far, and for $75 to $150, depending on how much of that banner ad you want or that header image, you can sponsor that for a month. 75 gets you part of it, 150 gets you all of it. They give you those numbers.
Cool.
And it's a very active Facebook group. People come back multiple times a day, 6-7 days a week to comment on posts, so there's a lot of exposure for that. It may be only 1,500 people right now, but that's been in about a month and a half, 2 months time span, it seems like, that the group's been up. And maybe it's been a little bit longer, but it's been growing this fast. We have 15 or 30-second spots on the podcast, limiting to 2 customers. So you can have a 15 at the front and a 30 in the middle of the show, and that'll be limited to 2 different companies. Give you the option of a sponsor.
So would you do a 15 or 2 15s at the beginning and then 2 30s in the middle, or what?
Right, 2 15s at the front and then 2 30s in the middle. So
Okay.
a minute and 30 advertising total. And starting off, if I don't have any sponsors by the time that the podcast goes out, I will advertise my other site, vwshirts.com, on the podcast. So there will always be an advertiser there. So there's always at least some proof, social proof, for new advertisers. Plus, if anybody does visit it, then I make money off that too by selling t-shirts. We have sponsored product reviews where somebody sends a product and I review it, give them my honest opinion on it. If it sucks, I'm going to tell you the product sucks, because it doesn't help me to lie about your product. It just gives me a bad name.
Right.
And I can do enough to get my own bad name. I don't need stuff like that. And in this, it's kind of a package deal. It's me taking the product, me reviewing it, installing it, or testing it, editing the video, crafting a post, putting it out there, putting it on social media. So it's quite a bit of work for $250.
Yeah.
And then a sponsored blog post I have at $500 each. That's the same thing, but instead of video, that's me writing it, editing it, crafting it, putting it out there, emailing my people, making it known to the world.
Right.
We have forum sponsorship. Inside the forum, you can sponsor a particular board on a specific topic, whether you have a TDI vehicle parts website or a IDI or a certain mark. You can sponsor certain boards, or you can...
Now you are talking to podcasters, so go on and explain what TDI and IDI is.
Okay. A TDI is a turbo direct injection, and an IDI is an indirect injection. It basically is just the difference between how the fuel enters the engine, kind of like the difference between carbureted and fuel injected.
Okay.
A difference like that. It's not the same difference, but it's a difference like that. And you can sponsor the whole forum, to where you sponsor all boards and the forum itself for $1,000, and that gets you quite a bit of exposure on the forum and on the blog too.
Cool.
And for free advertising, we offer just to be authorized as a registered vendor, to where you can go in the vendors page and post your stuff for sale, or specials that you're having, things like that. If you want to offer a discount to our members, special coupon codes and whatnot, we have that set up to where if you're a registered vendor and you offer a discount, we will promote your discount to our members as a way of saying thanks. Product giveaways, I talked about the giveaways that we're having up, where several companies that have grown up on the site are donating some computer tunes, parts, pump rebuilding, things like that, for me to give away to our users. And if you have like a technical article that's not a sales pitch, but it's, say you have a parts company and you wrote an article on the different specs of oil that Volkswagen uses, well, I'll be happy to post that up, because that is something that is useful to our members, and then I'll give you a link back to it in your profile page or something. It's not a super big advertisement. It's just kind of like a PSA.
Right. So guest post type thing.
And then Right. It's not a advertisement. It's not a endorsement. It's a technical review. It's it's something useful to our members that has come from your site. That's the
Cool.
difference between it and a paid.
Okay. Now, how are you growing your audience? I mean, you told me that you're adding about 250 members to your membership, to your board, your forum board. How are you going about finding these 250 people each month?
A lot of it is organic. We get, if you look at the Google Analytics, it shows about 120 some odd thousand views, with 50% of those coming from Google.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it's just organic growth. On Facebook, I do a lot of cross-posting in Facebook to different groups to advertise our group, or to advertise special forum posts, or to just put out things that are going on in the forum or the blog or the Facebook page, and then we get a lot of new users that way. And then I try to transition the users from the Facebook group back to the forum as users, which then adds them to my mailing list too.
Okay.
And we have been doing giveaways that have been promoted, and the last giveaway I did was a t-shirt giveaway with VitaShirts.com, where I gave away 10 t-shirts, and that it ran about 2 weeks, and I got about 300 signups on that. And that the shirts, honestly, they were my designs, but they weren't that great of a design.
Mm-hmm.
And I printed a bunch of them out to sell on eBay when I first started off the website, and it didn't sell very well, so they were sitting in my closet. And I was like, what am I going to do with these? Well, everybody loves free stuff. Let's give them away.
Yeah.
So I gave away 10 of them and got about 300 emails in 2 weeks that way.
Cool.
Now, the next one I expect to do a whole lot better, because it's stuff that people would, Black Friday shop for.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope to get a whole lot more signups, in the thousands that way.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you do t-shirts for other businesses other than just VWs?
I have been debating that. I threw a thing up on one of the podcaster sites about custom printing shirts for your podcast, your website, your business, or whatnot. But I've been looking at doing an automated way that somebody can order a bunch of shirts, supply their own images, and then I just take that and process the order like I do now.
And ship it.
Right. Yeah, the company that I have that does the printing for me, process, I send them the image, the specs, the address, and everything, and they print, package, and ship it with my own custom invoice and everything, to where all I do is place the order, and they take care of everything else.
Well, great. Paula, are you there? Paula. I guess not. I tried to talk to you, Paula.
Can't get Mike working on this.
Ah.
I had to go and change my mic settings because I had the same issue. At the top of the screen, if you mouse over the top middle of the screen, you'll see the little settings gear.
The gear.
I had to click on that and change my mic to the right mic before it would work, if that helps you, Paula. And I guess if it does help you, we'll hear you. If it doesn't, we know it didn't.
And Deo says he's coming back. He thinks
he... Now?
Yes, Paula.
Yes,
yes, hallelujah.
Okay, so great, because I've gone through all the different mic settings, and I thought, oh no. Now, will this change it for my computer?
No, only for your Google Hangout.
Oh, thank God. Okay, because I've been through months and months of trying to set up in the beginning and had all the setups wrong. Okay, so can I ask where I was listening to it about you about the T-shirts. Would you be open to sharing the company?
Sure. The company is going through a transition right now. The original company is shirts.io. But they have changed to a new, I'm going through my email now, so I'm rambling. They changed to a new Scalable Press, I think is the name of it. But they've changed to that. And you can do, through the new Scalable Press that they are offering, to do cell phones, cases, posters, hats, mugs, quite a bit more stuff.
Okay, and
So
I gather this is American, right?
right, they have a place in Indianapolis, a place in Utah or Nevada.
And what
They
was
have
that
four.
website again?
Shirts.io, and then the new one I'm bringing it up now. Scalable Press, and that is scalablepress.com. Um, the initial the initial price that you get is decent enough. I mean, it is competitive with Screen T or Teespring or some of those other print-on-demand places.
Yeah.
My tier is obviously a whole lot better because I have been with them since the beginning that they started.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a whole host of problems with them when they started. So as kind of a, hey, we're sorry for your issues, they gave me a better tier rate.
Cool.
Yeah, because I mean, when I started with them, they were just starting off in this too, and I was kind of their guinea pig on a lot of stuff and would give them feedback of, hey, from a user perspective, this kind of is a catch, and this doesn't work, and these are wrong. So I kind of helped them unofficially work through that a lot, or I just complained about it enough that they fixed it for me. But they offer, you know, your typical iPhone 5 and 6 and 4 cases for print, the Samsung Galaxy S3, 4, and 5 cases, coffee mugs, posters, T-shirts, shorts, hats, hoodies, all that jazz.
Yeah.
So
Listen,
Paula, I'm
yes.
looking at the website right now,
Who,
and
mine?
if you were to buy one Gildan cotton T-shirt,
Yeah.
one
Mm.
white T-shirt with color print on front and back, digital graphics, not screen print,
Right.
they're talking $16.60 per shirt.
Mm.
Now, if you were to order, let me go up. If you were to say to order 50, if I can get back up to 50, sliding scale is very sensitive. It'd be $10.60 per shirt.
Right.
Now,
See,
Mm.
my range is a lot better than
yeah.
that.
And
Yeah.
now, if you wanted to just get something on the back, it'd be $6.10 a shirt.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's so
Or
much more setup time when you do
right.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now screen printing, it would be $3.30 if you got 50 with just printing on one side, but it would be $26.10 if you just got one. And that's the difference. It's a lot easier to print multiples, large numbers in screen printing, and it's a lot easier to print the smaller volume in the digital.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to find that area where you break even and find which one's best for you. And having worked in screen printing a little bit, I did some design and sales for a company for a number of years on the side. Uh, you know, you really have to find a good sales rep. If you're talking to a human, find a good sales rep and find out what the great break-even point is, so that you're not buying the wrong format.
Yeah, and
Mm.
Paula, feel free to add me as a friend on Facebook, and I'll be able to help you out too
Okay.
if you
Yeah.
want.
Okay. I was going to ask
I,
you.
what is your website, or what are you looking to do?
Well, I'm Canadian, and that's the problem right now. Our dollar is so low that I'm not buying anything in the States. You know, I'm holding off.
Right.
So I was looking at my issue. The reason I'm here today is to try and increase my downloads
Mm-hmm.
and my audience, of course. And I've got a very small niche, and it's so I was thinking actually last night about the T-shirt idea. But then I thought, okay, well, I'll look around the local area and see what they've got. But everything is expensive right now
Yeah.
for us. You know, it's nothing like you've got. But if you happen to hear of if you're in Philip, but you said you were in screen printing, so you
Well,
might.
I'm not anymore. I did some design and some sales for a
Yeah.
company, gosh, 10, 15 years, right as digital was coming on.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, that's
That's good.
probably
That's
about the
good
same
experience.
time that I was doing it down in Oxford.
Yeah. Well, if you happen to hear of any Canadian one, that would be great.
Okay. Now,
community.
now, Paula, let me ask you a question. What are some options you are looking at to grow your audience?
Well, making sure that the community that I'm after knows that I exist.
Okay. And what is your
For
community?
the horse community,
The
and
what?
not horse,
Horse
horse.
community? Okay.
Yes, yes, horse owners. And what I'm doing is not training; it's more about the creatives in the horse world, the writers, the authors, the artists, the you know, the healthcare alternative specialists, those people. So I'm interviewing them, and
Hmm.
just something of interest to me.
Right. So are you on, since Ryan runs a forum, this would be my first question. It would be my first question anyway. Are you
Mm.
involved in any forums or
I,
anything, any other groups where horse
you
people hang
are.
out?
Yeah, actually, I did go to a couple of forums. I've been looking at forums now for about 2 years, and really, they're very well, they have their rules. They're very careful,
Yeah.
about what you do in advertising and stuff like that. And I have put things out there and just not gotten much response because the community is very much training oriented.
Hmm.
And my topics appeal to a wider audience, actually, because if you're interested in the arts, that's covered. But you must be interested in horses because I don't think it would be, but you don't have to be interested in training. And there's already, the other thing is I applied to Horse Radio Network and
Hmm.
they sort of snubbed me. And it's all about training, training, training. So
Yeah.
I don't
Well, I would suggest that
know.
you really seek out people. Well, as John Lee Dumas calls it, number one, you seek out who is your avatar. Where would they hang out? What would they be doing? How would they come together as a group and as a community? And then get involved in those online and offline communities and begin participating in the conversation. Before you even say anything about your podcast or your website or anything, involve yourself in the conversation. One of the reasons why, for instance, tomorrow I have John Lee Dumas on my podcast, one of the reasons why I've been able to get some of these looked after guests is because they see me in their community participating, offering advice, offering assistance, making suggestions and comments that are worthwhile, the whole 9 yards. And when they see me doing that, then they see, hey, this may be somebody I need to watch and see what they're doing. And then when you start developing a little bit of that following, people will ask you questions. People will begin, instead of just asking general questions in the group, they'll actually come to you and ask you questions. And when that starts happening, then you are able to use that forum, that platform, to grow your audience. When they start looking to you as a thought leader in that group and community, then you can answer and then say, hey, by the way, episode number 12, and you may be producing episode number 90, but episode number 12 really speaks to that question real good, and send them the link either in a private message or in the group to that actual podcast.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'll attest to that too. I have joined probably 200 or 300 groups that are Volkswagen related or diesel related in some way on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
And when I first, yeah, it took a lot of time. But when I first started sharing my Facebook group, I would pick up every other Friday and just share the group, just share bombing, if you
Right,
will,
yeah.
instead of Twitter bombing, and
Yeah.
would share that to every one of those groups, which took forever. And I would get a lot of people like my group, but I got kicked out of a lot of other groups too that didn't know me or that I hadn't provided any community involvement to, that I just joined to profit off of their group already. And I can tell that with my group, when people do that to me, it kind of ticks me off too, even though I did the exact same thing starting out and I understand it. But once you begin to be seen as that leader, people just start flocking to you. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's annoying, as I'm sure that Phillip can attest to. Why are you asking me this question? You can Google this.
Yes.
But the answer to that is that it's a convenience factor. And eventually, when you find yourself to be that convenience factor for other people, that's when you will grow your audience. That's when you will grow your group. And as John Lee Dumas says in the episode that's running tomorrow for the podcasters, he said, you know, we should be all about building a community. And he's talking specifically about Twitter bombing and how that does not grow a community.
Oh, that's right.
But we should be all about growing a community. And in doing that, we need to make things as convenient as possible for our audience. And by doing so, part of that includes writing really good show notes, as John Lee says tomorrow in the episode. But it's also a part of being where they are and helping solve problems they have. And when you do that, then you are giving them a convenience factor and a value that they can't find anywhere else. And when you're able to do that, then they will go looking for where you are.
Yeah.
Deo, can we hear you now, bud? Deo, go up to the settings gear and check and make sure your mic setting is correct. And then we'll see if we can get you on.
I've actually been looking to buy other websites in my same niche.
Yeah.
Just for the opportunity to grow my audience, to grow my reach faster. Other competing forums, not necessarily competing, but forums in the same line as mine, I've talked to the administrators trying to buy those.
Yeah.
Haven't had a whole lot of interest, but you might, and I know buying and changing a website over to your domain is quite a lot of work because I went through, but you might see what other niche websites that people find very helpful and interesting that you could talk to those administrators, and try to reach their audience. You know, maybe have the owner of the forum on the site or on a podcast if they will come, in hopes that they will share that message with their users, like TDI Club, which is the largest diesel Volkswagen forum, specific forum that there is. I've been trying to get the creator of that forum on my podcast for a couple months now, in hopes that that will lend more credibility to me, that the TDI Club crowd will venture over to my site more, and because he has a cool story that I'd like to hear. So you might try to talk to those leaders of websites, those administrators, and see if you can work off of their presence that way.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
And let me ask you a question, Ryan, about buying domains. You bought the domain that you're using right now with your forum. What kind of price ranges do you find when you're looking for niche websites?
Well, I more or less lucked into VW Diesel, and I bought the domain and the forum and everything, lock, stock, and barrel, because the owners and the original owner and I had similar stories, similar interest. I was able to build a good relationship with him without trying to annoy him too much over sell me this, sell me this, sell me this. And so I got a really good deal on it because, you know, it was my goal to take his baby and to grow it and to make it my baby, you know, to really love and nurture it. So I've got it at a really good price, because it wasn't about the money so much as it was about taking his creation and spending the time that he didn't have with it.
Right.
There are a few tools out there, like websites. I'm pulling up the bookmark now. freewebsitereport.org, that will give you a vague price for something. I find that it is very low on their traffic settings. Like it shows you just a small slice of what they actually get. So if you go to Free Website Report, and I'll use my own domain, VW Diesel, ShowNotesGuy.net. It shows that I get 760 page views a day, which I get close to 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that accurate, but at least it is a jumping point. It also says that monthly revenue is about $68, which more or less is about there, but the daily page views is way off and the traffic is way off.
Mm-hmm.
But there are several website estimator tools out there.
Yeah.
Another one that the guys at Niche Pursuits, Spencer Hawkings, I think is his name, but nichepursuits.com, they recommend Empire Flippers, empireflippers.com.
Well, I don't like the valuation they just gave ShowNotesGuy at free website report.
Right, right. It's usually pretty low, which if you're buying, that works in your favor.
Right.
But Empire Flippers gives you a better estimate. They have an estimation tool, and it takes your traffic, your search results, your domain.
Is that Empire Flipper dot?
Flippers with an S.
Oh,
EMPIREFLIPPERS.
Okay.
.com.
That makes a difference. Hey, oh, I hear you, buddy. Hello? Wow. Your gain on your mic is too loud, Deo. Yeah, let me see if I can adjust that. Hold on a second.
Yep.
Okay, now speak to me, Deo. Somebody's near your cell phone. Dale, I'm going to turn your gain down a little bit, buddy. So Empire Flippers, and then the other domain you sent us, you told us about website.
Free website report.
Freewebsitereport.com. So when you find those sites in your niche, then you go and make a bid on it or find out if they might be interested in selling?
What I've done in the past is learn who the administrator is, spend some time on the site. You know, if it's a forum or if it's a blog, it's probably easier to find out who it is. But or you can go look at the who is data. Just Google who is and then put the website in there. You'll find out who the owner of it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a corporation, sometimes it's an individual. That depends. But just talk to them. You know, if it goes up on Empire Flippers or something like that for sale, you know, it's always a lot more overpriced than if you can buy it from a individual.
Yeah.
And you might get lucky like me and find somebody that wants to sell their website to a good person to take care of it. I've talked to the owner of another website similar to mine that's much larger about selling it, and he wasn't interested. And I talked to a Russian guy about another small forum that is useful because of some of the information that it has on it, and he was more interested in working with me instead of selling it, and that was fine too. We haven't come to an agreement yet on it. And then they're just, you know, find a website that's highly valuable in your niche and talk to that person and see if you can share your message with their audience.
Cool.
And it works sometimes it doesn't.
And Dale left me again. Oh well. Paula, the point is that there are many different ways to reach out to communities, which might include your audience. But you've got to know your audience well enough to know where they will be so that you can go where they are.
Well, I do have the forums. Excuse me.
Yeah. So that would be my first bit of advice for you, because if you're not where they are, as much as the Kevin Costner movie was good, if you build it, they don't necessarily come. They don't necessarily come. If they don't know who you are, if they don't know your passion, if they don't know your intelligence, if they don't know what is in it for them from you, then why would they come to visit your website or listen to your podcast or join in your discussions or anything else? They've got to know that there's something in it for them the old WIIFM. What's in it for me? And you've got to be able to establish yourself as someone who knows how to engage them and to apply principles and truths to their lives to make their lives better in whatever area you're dealing with. For me, it's podcasting. I am the podcaster. I am the show notes guy. And so my niche is podcasters, you guys. And so my job is to try to help your lives be easier as podcasters, and in so doing, add enough value to your lives that you go, hey, that guy may actually know what he's talking about. I might need to sign him up as a coach, or I might need to sign him up to write show notes, or whatever it might be that I'm offering. And so you're able to grow your business, to monetize your business, to convert listeners to customers, whatever it is that your goal is for your podcast. To have a coach that can help you get there so much more quickly is very, very helpful, because as you know, and I'm sure as Ryan would admit to as well, swimming in the waters by yourself, especially when they're shark infested, is a very dangerous thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at your site here now. There looks
Mine
to be
or
some,
Paula's?
Paula's.
Okay.
Is the advertisement on the side, is that Google? Okay, that looks like eJunkie stuff. And is that Google AdWords on there, or what are your ads coming from?
No, my ads are coming from, I have another site called Best Horse Products Review. And okay. Most of my ads are affiliates.
Right.
All of them are actually. All of them are affiliates. And so that's all affiliate stuff. I guess my disappointment has been with my guests. I was sort of hoping that I had a way of trying to help them get their information out, because a lot of them do have clients, and but I find a lot of the common thing is, what on earth is a podcast? And I'm someone who's listened to podcasts for years because of CBC. CBC has had podcasts here. And, I had an iPod, I think, in 2007.
Yeah.
And, had it with me constantly. So I'm a huge podcast fan. And, I was just a little bit disappointed about that.
Let me encourage you to go to my podcast website, which is ShowNotesGuy.com/P podcasters. And look for the episode, look for the article that is, I think it's titled, What Is It You Do? Let me see if I can find it. And it actually addresses how to explain to people what exactly a podcast is. And because this discussion was actually held at Podcasters Paradise 2014, because there is some concern that a lot of people don't know what that word means. They don't know what it is, the word podcaster is, or what a podcast is. Excuse me. So we do have to describe what it is that it is. They need to understand exactly, what it is. So here's some of the answers that I gave, and I'm trying to find the actual link and put it in the chat. So give me just a second.
Oh, I didn't see that chat till just now.
Yeah.
While you're looking for that, Paula, is there a way to leverage your two audiences together?
Yes. You mean between my two sites?
Right.
Yes.
Have you tried doing that?
Yeah, I think that's not a problem. Again, I think that that's not a that's fine actually.
And I almost wonder. I was looking at the podcast show and then the review website, and I was thinking originally before you said that, what about putting more content on there, like reviews and product demos and stuff like that? But you've already got a website like that. I mean, is it enough to merge the two under one website, whichever one is more popular?
Yeah, I really don't want to do that right now. I've sort of left the product review because I've been so busy with the
Right.
podcast one,
Mhm.
and if the technical part, you know, needless to say, I know everybody understands this, but the technical part for me with the audio and everything, it took up a lot of time. So something had to go. I couldn't do both. So I just basically left the review site a bit alone and put more effort into the podcasting. And that I'm just trying to, you know, I'm just getting sort of it's manageable now and organizing it. So I will go back, and I am thinking about changing. It's an old theme, and it's not very responsive. There's lots wrong with it. So I'm
Right.
thinking about moving over to a more updated site.
Yeah.
Let me make a strong challenge to you, and that is to pick up the reviews and to use YouTube like nobody's business in the process.
Hmm.
YouTube, Google loves YouTube, lots. So I would put the reviews on YouTube, and then say, oh, and by the way, to learn more about whatever it is about horses that you're trying to promote on your podcast, say, put the link in the description and say, go listen to my podcast on the link down below.
Hmm.
And use YouTube, because like I said, Google owns YouTube. They love YouTube. And so there's a reason why I do these Hangouts, is because they're going to be on YouTube. And guess what? This is a promotional tool for Show Notes Guy, because podcasters, if they find it, if they see it, if they listen and they like and they learn, then I've done myself a good favor. And I mean, I don't mind explaining that. It's just, good marketing. But my hope and prayer is that when I do these, I help the podcasters who are watching. I help the podcasters who are in the group, and give them good quantifiable advice that they can then go and apply to their podcasting or to their online business, and then go, hey, Phil helped me. The Show Notes Guy knows what he's talking about, and now I know that I can trust him with other questions that I may have.
Yeah.
By the way, I found the link, and it is in the chat room. But the name of the podcast episode is Question and Answer to the Podcasters Q&A. Joe Pardo, what do you do? And Joe was asking, how do you explain what it is you do? And I give a couple of ways. The really easy way to explain what it is you do is, one, to use the concept that most people are used to. You listen to radio, what are they going to say 9 times out of 10? Yes. And when they say yes, you say, well, I do an on-demand online radio show about. Don't even use the word podcasting. The other way is to say, do you have a smartphone? And then ask them if they will open up their smartphone, if I can get mine open. And if it's an iPhone, look for the podcast app. Look for the podcast app and then open it up and then search for your podcast. There, I just gave a good ad for Rick Mulready of the Art of Paid Traffic. Great podcast, by the way. But, the fact of the matter is, you're not going to be able to explain to someone who has no idea what a podcast is, what a podcast is. So
Well,
you're
I
going to
guess
have to you're going to have to translate it into language they understand.
yeah, that wasn't a problem. I'm just saying is that the lack of, I mean, if somebody said that, yeah, well, this is the first thing. It's just like a radio show,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've been listening to radio since '72,
Mm-hmm.
on a regular basis, talk radio, because again, that was a really huge thing in Canada and with CBC. So that wasn't the problem. The problem is that, just when you put it out there, very few people are familiar. That's all, what I meant. I
Right.
can explain a podcast. That's not an issue.
Okay.
Um, but and I, I don't need, I mean, that wasn't the problem. I just said the lack of people, that are, aware of what a podcast is. It's
Well,
really low.
but
So,
yeah, it is. I mean,
and
most statistics I've read lately say about 15 to 18% of the
yep,
American
20%.
population it
Yeah,
knows what a podcast is,
yep,
and then less than half of them actually listen to a podcast.
right.
So the numbers are low, and you
Yeah.
have to do an educational process, even on many of the folks you would want as a guest.
Mhm. No, I
And
know. I know. Yep.
and I mean, it's difficult. It's easy for me because I'm interviewing podcasters or people who serve the podcasting community, so they know what a podcast is. They probably have their own podcast, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, you're right. And see, when I'm in town and people ask me, well, what is it that you do? Try explaining writing show notes for a podcaster to someone who doesn't know what a podcast is.
You could always
Mhm.
just
So,
use the Tim Ferriss. I just sell drugs.
well, I don't, 9 times out of 10, I just say that I'm a professional writer and I'll leave it at that. But if they start digging, then I have to explain to them what I write. And and it can get complicated. Paula, you're right. It is complicated. It is difficult to explain to the uninitiated what a podcast is, and even with those two tips that I just gave, it's still difficult because it's a relative. I say it's new. It's not.
Yep.
I was listening to podcasts that before there was a term podcast back in the late 90s and early 2000s. So I know the history of this business because I observed it and participated in it back in those time frames of the late 90s, early 2000s. I remember when Alan Hunter, former VJ with MTV, was trying to establish this concept of transferring audio files through RSS and then loading them into MP3 players before Apple even came out with their iPod. So, the industry is still in its gestational stages, and as such, it's kind of, a foreign concept to people. Here's the cool thing, though, with AirPlay, and well, not with AirPlay, but with the CarPlay and with the Android in-dash computers that are able to play podcasts for us, the knowledge factor of podcast will increase significantly within the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, guys, I've got to go pick up my son from daycare.
Well, I'm
Me
glad
too.
I'm glad you're doing that. It means you're a
Yep.
good father
Yep,
and a good husband.
I've got to be there by 5, but with all the snow and roads and
It
stuff.
may take you a while.
Yep.
Well,
So,
thank you for Ryan for telling us how you are going about monetizing your podcast and your website.
mhm.
I think it's very important. I think one of the great pickups we can pick up from what you were doing is to build community on your website, build interactivity on your website, and forums is a great way of doing it. Facebook groups is another great way of doing it, but I love forums because forums gives you a way to hold that information and make it searchable, and Google loves
And it is easy content you don't have to create. And it's interactive content you don't have to create.
And
So,
not only that, you can steal that content and use it in your podcast.
Yep, because
Yep.
everything that's on your forum you own. So, but thank you all for having me, and I will talk to all of you later.
Okay.
Thank you, Ryan.
Bye-bye. And I've
Bye.
got to go too, Philip.
Okay, that's great.
So much. Very informative, and I appreciate it.
Well, Paula, I hope I've helped you. I know you've joined in a few of our conversations in the past,
Mhm.
and so I hope you enjoyed it and that you learned something, because I try to do these for no other reason than to help.
Yeah, you know what I would really, really like, though, is I just put it out today on the podcast, The Paradisers, is a group for tech, for Adobe Edition. When we have those once a month or maybe once every 2 months, when we have those niggling sort of little quirky things that
Yeah.
Adobe does, it would be lovely to get, one really techie person and that can give us some help.
Right.
Let me
There's
give
a
you let me give you a Facebook
Desire.
group.
Okay, great.
Okay, It's called Podcasters Tech Talk. Steve Atwell runs it.
I've got the link right there. I was pulling up the same group
do you
to
have the
give
link?
her.
Yeah.
It's in the.
Okay. Yep. Okay, got it.
And it is a great group to be a part of. And then there are some, I don't know what kind of tech issues you're talking about, but on my brain, Pat Flynn has some great videos on YouTube. I've got a few under my personal YouTube channel.
It's more the quirks.
Okay.
Like Adobe Audition will, when you push or put the playhead back a couple of times, it'll crash. I've lost a couple of files. Just different things I've saved. You know, I've learned on my own, and but it would be nice to get a little bit of help, because when Adobe Audition is similar to iTunes, you need to go through 10 pages before you find what the answer is, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah, I understand. And Steve Atwell's group would be great for you.
Okay.
And it's the
I got this link here.
Yeah.
The Facebook group, right? That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
And there's I'm in that group. Ryan's in that group. There's a lot of great folks in that group, and generally 9 times out of 10, you'll find your answer in that group.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And here's the positive thing about it. That group is not nearly as populated with non-techies as Podcasters Paradise is.
Okay.
So I would suggest that group to you and to anybody. Matter of fact, I'm about to post a question on there for them in that group, because I want to learn how to do something in particular in Audition, and I've not yet been able to find a video to train me how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Paula. Thank you very much.
You meet every Tuesday?
Monday?
Sorry.
I'm about to start. I had someone else ask me, have you developed a schedule for this yet? It's been sort of haphazard as I found the time, but I'm about to start creating the time to be able to do this, probably on a bi-weekly basis.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, thank you much. Have a great day.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. And I would like to thank you for viewing and listening to this Hangout. If you would like to be involved in the Hangout sessions, send me an email at ShowNotesGuy@gmail.com, and I'll try to put you on the list for the next Hangout. As I said, we're going to try to do this on a bi-weekly basis. I'm hoping it will be on Mondays. I'm not going to guarantee that right now, but that's the plan right now as we're talking. So it's ShowNotesGuy@gmail.com. You can tweet me at ShowNotesGuy, and you can contact me on my website, ShowNotesGuy.com, or on my podcast website, ShowNotesGuy.com/podcasters with a capital P. Thank you. You have a great day. God bless.